guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. I am so happy you found us. Today we are doing a video about using those smallest bits of napkin that you have left. Don't throw them away. I've got ideas how you can use them. So come with me and let's get started. Okay guys, and what I'm talking about using today are these little bits and pieces that we get from leftover napkins after we decoupage pages, book tags, anything basically. You always have little pieces left. And the thing is, maybe it's not the whole picture, but look, there is some pretty color left on this. And like this one has some words left. But it's a very small piece that can be difficult to work with. Well, I'm going to show you how we can use them. I'm also going to give you some ideas for using the white part that you peel apart. Now, one big use for this for me is to wipe my hands. So I save these and use them to wipe paintbrushes, my hands, my work surface. So I do use these. But I know a lot of people just pull them apart and just throw these in the trash or recycle. So I'm going to give you some ideas, besides the ones I just gave you about cleaning, to use these as well. So the first thing we're going to do is use our napkin bits on some trim. Now this is some vintage trim. You know, we put it on the sides of pages. We tie you know, the holes through the tags. We just use trim for a lot of stuff. And if you're mixed media, you use it for even more stuff. So what can you do with this little bit of skimpy trim left? Well, this obviously could go on a tag, right? I mean, you're not going to throw this away. But it's kind of plain. And maybe if you looked at your napkin bits that you had left too, you would realize, hey, I can use a little bit of this napkin and put on here and make my trim a little prettier, give it a little different look. So what I'm going to show you is I'm just using plain Mod Podge. Sorry, I got like a hair. Okay. I'm just using plain Mod Podge right there and a brush, and I'm just brushing it onto my trim. Okay. Okay, I'm just brushing it on, and then I'm going to take my napkin. And I'm doing the napkin just like I would if I was doing it on a piece of paper. Okay, and we're going to let that dry. But there we go. I have Mod Podge napkin, and look, my trim has a different look to it. And you might be thinking, oh, it's not worth the trouble, but it is. Think about how much we waste. Now, here's one of my little small fabric pieces that I could make a bow out of this, which I love. If you haven't seen that video where I take our smallest fabric scraps and make a bow or a little bag out of, or a piece of fabric tape, I will link that above. But you can also take this and take your napkin bits and put them on, and it will make like a quilted piece of fabric. And you're using two smallest unused leftovers. You're using napkin bits and you're using fabric bits. And I am just doing the napkin on the fabric again, just like I would on paper. I am putting the Mod Podge down first on the fabric, like that, and then putting the napkin down. And then I'll get more Mod Podge on my little brush, and I'll come over the napkin just like I would on a tag or piece of paper, book page, or whatever. Okay, so there we go. And when it dries, you'll see we've made a different type of fabric, almost like a quilted piece without the trouble. Okay, another great use for leftover napkin bits and pieces is to decorate our clips. Now, depending on what color napkin, and because it's sheer napkin, the pattern may not show up so well on black ones. But if you put some white down and then black, it would look good. But sometimes it looks good on black. It just depends on your napkin and what part you're using. So let's go ahead, and all I'm doing is putting Mod Podge on the top of my clip, which is the part you will see. And then I just put my napkin down, and then I'm coming back over my napkin. And then we're going to let that dry. While that's drying, I'm going to do a smaller one because I wanted to show you that you can do all sizes. It doesn't just have to be big. And sometimes your piece of napkin left is just, you know, something that, like I said, would normally go in the trash. But why put it in the trash when you can make something out of it, you know? And it's going to give whatever you're doing. If you're doing clips, I mean, think about, you don't see clips like this very often. So it's going to be a technique that a lot of people don't see. If you sell your journals with your stuff in them, with clips and stuff in them, for sure it's going to be a new look for your customers. Okay, now we'll just let that one dry. Okay, and the last one I want to show you is using a button. I have a button that this side is ridged. I don't know if you can see the little rim around it, but the back side is flat, and that's the one that we're going to use some of our leftover napkin bits on. Like I said, I just love throwing as little as possible away, especially when I can make something, you know, pretty from it. So I just have a piece of napkin this small. I'm just putting it on my button like that, and just let it dry, and there we go. Now let's say you've done your buttons and everything, and you really don't have anything else, but you don't want to throw these pieces away. What you can do is you can use wax paper just from your kitchen from baking, or if you have vellum, you can use vellum. Either one, it doesn't really matter. They're both great, but you can use, I'm going to use the wax paper because it's what more people have, but you can do this on vellum. Okay, and all you do is take all the little bits and pieces that are left over, and instead of throwing them in the trash, just put some Mod Podge down on one side of your wax paper and glue it down, and just space them out. Make them like a mosaic or a stained glass, you know. Make them into a pattern. And I mean, you are using the littlest bits sometimes, so just stick them wherever they stick, you know, because the point is to save them from the trash and let them become something else. Okay, and I mean, I'm using tiny little, I don't know if you can even see that. Can you see that? Just tiny little scraps of napkin here. But that's the point. And then you end up with these great designs on your wax paper that you can cut out and put on tags, put on paper, put this as a peekaboo window in a page. I mean, they're just great. It's a great way to save stuff. Then once it dries, you can trim it and store it in a file, and you have all these different things. You can cut parts out of 2 or 3 different wax paper napkin glue, you know, spots, and put them together. I mean, it's just a great way to reuse resources and just don't be so wasteful. Because, okay, now for our white piece that we take off, I'm going to just show you real quick what you can do. So all I have is the underlying white that we pull off from the top of the napkin. And I'm going to decoupage it onto my wax paper here. Okay, and I'm just doing a square because that's what I tore off. And I'm just decoupaging it like I do anything with napkin. I start from the center and push outward all the way around. That way I never peel it up. And this way works really well for me. I'm sure you can do it a different way, but I always start in the center and just brush out. And I might have to turn my paper, you know, around several times. But if you start from the center and brush out, it just works, okay? And then when that dries, you have a really cool textured piece of paper that you can write on because it's got great texture to it. Or, I did this one earlier, you can watercolor on it. And hear that? It's got great texture, so after you watercolor on it, you can use this to decorate tags. You can make a tag out of this by itself. You could use it to decorate a page, but you know what else? It could be a pocket, but hear that? It's gritty. It's got grip to it. You can actually write on this. See? And it writes beautifully. So this could actually just be a whole page in a journal, watercolor it with whatever colors, and then have it as a writing surface. And that's all I did, was what you just saw me do with this one, was decoupaged a white part of the napkin that you peel apart onto just plain wax paper from the kitchen. I then watercolored it with just everyday watercolors, and that's it. It's a great use for that leftover part that I think, unfortunately, a lot of us tend to throw away. Now, I'm going to dry all of this real quick so you can see how everything turned out. This is the trim. I just decoupaged a bit, and look, it changed the whole look of the trim, and it used a little bit of napkin. Great use. Our small fabric, we decoupaged a little bit of napkin on it, and look, you have like a whole new piece of fabric to use. Our button, we decoupaged the napkin onto it. We're just gonna pop off the rest by just pulling it around. And look, you have a really cool button now. And then our clips. Our clips look amazing. They just have a little bit of detail on them that they wouldn't have had before. And these were yellow, so the black shows through more, but if it's like a navy or brown or red, but you could also layer like a white and then do the napkin, that works too. And then of course we have our wax paper. These are dry. You can cut them and make a stained glass, make a mosaic. You could put them in a peekaboo window. You could just add them to tags. This you could watercolor like I showed you and then write on it because it's got that texture like that. So anyway, I hope you like these ideas for our smallest napkin bits. I hope it gives you some ideas of your own, maybe something I didn't think of. I'd love to see what you use your smallest napkin bits for down in the comments. Thanks for being here today, guys. See you later. Bye.